Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in Mechagon, and as we said, we're going to see how this place develops. So I'm going to do another video today, and then probably another one in like 4 or 5 days, something like that, and see where we're up to. But this place is showing its colours. Like, we're starting to see where the fun side of Mechagon actually exists. It's a shame it doesn't really grab you at the beginning, because it feels like, oh, there's just nothing much to do here. But then over time, it starts to unravel itself, certainly by the second day. I will say a couple of things. Firstly, reputation appears to be broken on Mechagon right now. Like, I did come back the second day, and there were dailies that had appeared, and also extra quests, extra yellow exclamation mark quests that weren't there the day before. And those... it didn't give any rep. Like 1 or 2 of the maybe 7 or 8 quests that we did, some of them were very strange, took you to High Mountain and things like that. But they gave, like, one of them gave 25 rep, one of them gave 75 rep, and the other ones just didn't give anything. So at the moment, I'm still neutral. Now, I am somewhat tempted to grab a scroll and kind of go and do normal world quests and get us up to friendly and see what happens then. Might do that after recording this and see what happens there. I am very close to building the Mechanocat. You can indeed build the Mechanocat like on day 2. I could have built it today, but I spent some of the ingredients doing something else, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So the first thing that was really great is Chromie decided to show up. And Chromie, I hope they do way more of this. I really do. Chromie has been looking into alternative timelines for the place and has discovered timelines where Rustbolt, the place in Mechagon that we're based out of, has actually been eradicated and destroyed, and the machines have taken over. A la Terminator 2. Love it when Blizzard references movies. It's so good. It's kind of a mix of Terminator 2 and Stranger Things, because they call it like the other place. And when you go there, it's exactly the same place, but it is now in like a post-apocalyptic world where the sky is burnt red with fire. And these are giant robots, very similar to you would have seen in the scenes from Terminator and Terminator 2, are now patrolling the land. Giant Arcano spiders are now patrolling the land, very dangerous. And it's a shame, it's a real shame that Blizzard still hasn't really figured out a way of making the gameplay interesting, because the setting is fantastic. It's once again like the art team and the guys who are coming up with the environments are just knocking it out of the park. Like, time after time, they're just like, bang, fucking winner, bang, winner, bang, winner. And the gameplay team who's coming up with the quest is like, collect 10 things? And it's like, oh, come on. Let's get creative. Let's do something cool here. Let's not collect 10 fucking things. Come on, look at where we are. We're in a post-apocalyptic Terminator world. Let's do something really fun here, but unfortunately not. But the idea of Chromie going into different timelines where different things have happened, obviously, maybe even a slight twist on Avengers a little bit. Not really. I mean, that's a stretch. It's not the first time we've seen different timelines. But I love the idea. Just changing the entire environment to something else. It's obviously just using the phasing technology, but it works so wonderfully well. It really does. So that was great. Like, the quests themselves, terrible, unfortunately, but the actual system that we went through to get there was really cool. I really enjoyed that very much. Moving through Mechagon then, as it's now started to unfold, we can confirm 100% that the rares on the island reset per day. So you will get items that summon some rares, and a lot of the rares just kind of appear on a periodic spawn. They are rekillable every day to gain their rewards, which can be everything from basic spare parts all the way up to the expensive epic ingredients. Again, it's Mechagon. It's all about ingredients in order to craft things and build things and things like that. Now, what I did find was that I was picking up a lot of stuff that I didn't know what it did. And that was cool, because I just wasn't aware what this was. It was kind of interesting. And what I found was a lot of white items. So not greys that would be sold at the vendor just automatically by your add-ons, but white items. And these white items were all kind of random, like machined gear assemblies, smashed transport relays, things like this, grime-coated discs. Didn't really know what they did. But what they said is combined with a number of other white items to repair it or to rebuild it, something along those lines. And when I did, that got a little bit more interesting. The first thing I created was a nullifier transport relay, and the only description on it is, place this at the secret location. Now, I've done some searching. Nobody seems to have found the secret location yet, so I don't know what it does. I don't know what it does, but I have it. I have this thing, and I don't know what it is, and that's great. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. I have things, and I don't know what they do. And the other thing I found was an exothermic weather relay device. And this I did figure out, because it said place inside the weather alteration machine. So I had a look around. I was like, I can't see a weather alteration machine anywhere. Asked in general, no one had seen it. Now, some of you will probably be aware of this, but I did eventually find the weather alteration machine up near Mechagon itself, because we're in Rustbolt, which is a town outside of Mechagon. And this is great, because you plug this thing in and it makes it rain. And when it rains, it debuffs the entire island for everybody. This is very cool. Why? Everything's mechanical, so the rain slows them down, makes them do less damage, makes them rusty, essentially. So it makes everything rusty, and you get a period of time where it's going to be raining on Mechagon because you've changed the weather, and everything is much easier to farm and kill. Because remember, Mechagon is about farming and killing things. That's generally the idea, is just farming and farming and farming. I can confirm that the elite areas drop significantly more materials than the non-elites, which is standard stuff, but if you're ever coming here farming, getting a little group of people to go up to just outside Mechagon itself, that is soloable. I soloed it. I spent about half an hour just soloing mobs there just so I could build all these things, because they had an increased drop rate on the white items as well. So I bobbed up to there and just killed a lot of the elites. It was a little slow though. Like, a group of people doing it would have been significantly better. But going up to the elite areas does make this farming process much easier. But it is soloable for those of you who really hate playing with other people. I understand that. Now, I also found some stuff I mentioned earlier, like a grime-coated disc. This is a holographic data disc. And there is a holographic area. There's a lot of Mechagon is made up of broken old buildings and it looks like advanced technology that's been destroyed. Yeah, that's the idea behind the place. So finding the holographic place isn't hard, but it doesn't work yet. It's one of these things that, like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And there are a lot of people who've managed to construct these devices, which you then go to recycler machines that are dotted around, turn those in, and then you get this disc that you can eventually turn in, but I can't do it today. And that does come to something that is definitely an emergent problem with Mechagon that Blizzard really needs to deal with, and that is the artificial scarcity of certain items that doesn't quite make sense. So in yesterday's video, I told you about these construction projects. They have construction projects that go on from the visitors that arrive that you can do things with. So I talked to you about the oil rig. The oil rig did give... we actually got in contact again with the guy who completed the oil rig, because it is still standing today and doesn't still appear to be doing anything. But he did say that once he did activate it, he got a significant amount of stuff. He got a box full of stuff for doing it, which was very cool. So that's something to bear in mind. But I told you yesterday about the flame turrets, and the flame turrets weren't worthwhile. Unless they give reputation, there's no reason to do them, because they only stay in one area, and they don't do anywhere near as much damage as an actual play character do. It's just not worthwhile. Today, they've introduced these drilling rigs, and the way the drilling rigs work is there are various caves located around Mechagon, and they will cave in. So the entrances to the cave are blocked off. That will spawn a construction rig outside, which looks exactly the same as the Azurite extractor that you'll find on islands. If you pour some materials into those things, so you're looking at around, I think it's something like 250 spare parts and 2 fuel cells, fully charged fuel cells, that will activate the drill rig, which will break through the rocks and give you a period of time to deal with a new spawned rare, or a cave full of enemies with a rare inside, which gives you some loot. Now, I did say yesterday, these energy cells are artificially scarce. And that's because you find a ton of empty cells, because they're basically batteries. You find a ton of empty ones, but you can't charge them up until the game cycles round to a very specific guy to open up his charge area. Now, it does show you this in the intro to Mechagon. It'll let you get 1 charged fuel cell. But until that time period arrives where his I believe he's called what's it called, Bondo, until Bondo actually activates his charging station, which is nothing to do with the player, that just cycles round, and then it'll be like a construction project or whatever. Once that actually happens, you can't charge these fuel cells. There's no way of doing it, so you end up with a big stock of them. Like right now I have 36. You need the charged ones to get a lot of stuff done. A lot of the construction involves charged fuel cells. Now, what's obviously going to happen here, or I think is what's going to happen, is when the day comes around when the charging station is open, you're going to end up with an absolute ton of charged fuel cells, and the scarcity is just going to disappear forevermore. Because depending on whether something... I haven't seen any projects yet that require a huge amount of them, but like the mount needs 5, for example. The mount needs 5 of these things. The problem is these little events which they want players to take part in, they take these charged fuel cells. And I was actually really annoyed that activating one of the drill rigs cost me 2 charged fuel cells of the 5 I had at the time, which was enough to build the mount. The reward, it's not a case of even if I have 30 of them, which I will have at some point, that I would do that again. And the reason is, so far, they haven't tailored the rewards from actually opening up these caves to be worth more than what it costs to activate the event, right? So it cost me 250 spare parts and 2 charged fuel cells to activate the drill rig, yet the reward I got from the drill rig was 20 spare parts, and that was it, and maybe an empty fuel cell. So it cost me like multiple times more than what I actually got out of doing it. So they really need to fix that. Otherwise, these things are going to be dead on arrival rather than something cool that appears that you can do something with, right? Because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like, it pops up on your map, you'll see the little cogwheel, and you'll be like, oh, there's something to do there. That's cool. But as of right now, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. And what I'm already seeing on the PTR, because of course the rares still have a chance to drop like the expensive and worthwhile items, but rarely, from what I found, rarely. I've done about 5 of these cave-ins so far, and I've only got 1 reasonably good thing out of it. Is that most people, because they're shared, so most people that I'm seeing already on the PTR are just standing near them, and they're hoping some poor sap will come up and actually spend their personal resources in order to activate this thing, because the stuff that you need to activate them is just too precious. Now, it won't be precious in the future. It won't be precious once we have a load of charged fuel cells, but that still doesn't change the fact that activating them gives you less than what it costs to activate them. That's what doesn't make sense. If they're intending that these things are supposed to be shared between, I don't know, 5 or 6 people, something like that, it's still not worth it. And that's the problem. They really need to address that, because it's just not worth it. And it's a shame, because they're a cool little event that you can do something with. But as it stands right now, I'm seeing them pop up and people go and stand next to them and they're like, some fucking idiot's going to go and turn this thing on, because I'm fucking not. No, and I don't blame anybody either. I really don't blame anybody. But that's not the way it's supposed to work, let's be honest. It's not supposed to be that way. Hopefully they'll do something to fix it. But overall, Mechagon has gotten much more interesting now. Now my inventory is filling up. And I will say this, Blizzard, please, spare parts need to stack to at least 1,000. They currently stack to 250. Some of these projects require like 2,000s of these things. I've only been here for 2 days, goofing around for a few hours, and I already have like almost a full line in my bags of spare parts because they only stack to 250. So I've got like 1,500. That's too many bag slots, man. It's just way too many. These things need to stack up way better. Or just reduce the cost of them and reduce the amount that drop, because they are the standard reward from killing pretty much any unit on Mechagon will give you some spare parts. They're also the standard reward for doing the dailies and stuff, is getting spare parts. So they really need to fix that as well, because right now it's pretty garbage. But one thing I can tell you is overall this place has gotten better. I like the secrets. I like the interactions that's going on. There is some semblance that people on the island are working together, even though most, nearly everybody's doing their solo effort. But when it rains, you're like, oh, I can pull a lot more enemies here in order to just AoE harder and kill all these mobs. Not that it's hard in the first place, but it just makes it so you can be a little bit more risky with how much you pull and all that kind of stuff. And that's something I can really appreciate. I think it's pretty good. So far, a few things not working. No reputation. The construction projects still seem to be just a little wonky. And hopefully they'll fix that. But other than that, Mechagon is definitely looking more and more interesting. I'm actually genuinely, despite this not really being my jam, I'm genuinely looking forward to what might happen tomorrow. What kind of things I might find tomorrow when new visitors arrive. We'll build the Mechagon cat, and I can show you probably the painting job on that kind of thing. Hopefully that's something we can do tomorrow, or at least in the next few days. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Bye-bye.